It's a pleasure to meet some new people and to see face-to-face many people that I've emailed with over the years. I've spoken only to on the phone. Again, Mark Curnutte. I am Vice President of Marketing, Communications, and Key Initiatives at the Urban League. I spent the previous 21 years as a reporter at the Inquirer. And prior to my beginning officially at the Urban League, Mrs. Baker, Donna Jones Baker, our president and CEO, hired me on a contract basis to begin putting this report together. She had assembled, some of you may have looked at it already, but she assembled a group of expert authors. It's kind of the pattern that has been set by the National Urban League, and some of you may be familiar with its annual report, the State of Black America, and where it goes and brings in experts in various fields, economics, criminal justice, health, and has those essays and their expertise kind of melded together. So what Donna had done is assembled a group of writers, experts in fields. For example, David Singleton from the Ohio Justice and Policy Center wrote primarily, obviously, about criminal justice and mass incarceration. We had Eileen Cooper-Reed, former president of the school board, wrote an essay, one of the essays on education, as did Vanessa White, a former school board member who's now vice president of youth programming at the league. Etc. So what I was handed was a group of unedited essays, and my job was to kind of put those together and then help Mrs. Baker put together her executive summary and then to write the foreword that Dr. Odell Owens signed on to. What I was asked to do today is, it was mentioned, I presented at the Metropolitan Area Religious Coalition of Cincinnati to its delegates forum a few weeks ago. Tuesday night, Donna and I presented at the Presbytery of Cincinnati, and last night I was at St. John's Unitarian in Clifton. What I was asked to do today was to kind of combine what I did at Mark with this new PowerPoint that Donna asked me to put together. So, how do I say this as a preface? There's 52 people work at the Urban League here in the Cincinnati office. 3 of us are white. One woman is an immigrant from Poland who works in the finance office. Another woman works in the business development office, the women's business certification program, and then there's me. And people are often wondering what led me to the Urban League. To me, it was just part of my journey. But I've asked to kind of address that and to give it some context into kind of my engagement with this report. So I want to start, I actually brought visual aids. So I started at the Inquirer in 1993 and put together, was charged with putting together a series on race relations that came on the heels of the Klan cross going up on Fountain Square for the first time. So this report was called, A Polite Silence. It came out in November of 1993. And it addresses a number of different issues, economics, inclusion, and religion. And the religion essay is where I want to start because I was 31 years old, and this kind of started I'd always been kind of interested in an intellectual and moral perspective on issues of race and class. And an interview I did, we did a story on religion and how organized religion and how 11 a.m. Sunday morning was still and still is the most segregated hour in American society. And part of that process of reporting that story was an interview with a white Methodist minister. And at that point, the Methodist Church in this part of the state, and I forget the proper name of it, was beginning kind of an examination of issues of race. And I remember talking to this minister, and since we're in a church, I can kind of talk this way. I want to put it in that context, and that's what I did with Mark. And I remember what this minister said, and it never went away from me, and it truly affected me in a number of different ways. And he said, racism is no small sin. Prejudice and racism are great insults to the one God who created us all. And in so many ways, that took the whole issue of race relations and urban affairs and the singular experience of African Americans in this country, and took it from kind of my head and put it in my heart. And what you understand, I think many of you probably do, the white people here, is that to live in what is now, I think, the brand new study that came out from the Wall Street Journal 2 weeks ago that says we are statistically the 5th most segregated major city in the country, is efforts to live kind of a multiracial, multicultural life have to be intentional. And many of you have probably experienced that in your own work and your own life. And I think the other thing that I bring, that I want to bring is in what I'm learning, because this is a process. I've been at this for almost 22 years intentionally, and I still learn new things, is the need, if race relations are going to improve in our city and the economic situation is going to improve for the African American community, and I'm going to go into details about that. You know, just as the Civil Rights Movement and the birth of the Urban League in 1910 and the NAACP at roughly the same time, those efforts have to be infused with white people. Those of us with the influence, the affluence, you know, we need to join. And I think one of the things I'm learning as the minority in my office is the need to listen. And it's not about what me as a white man, a white middle class, well-educated man thinks. It's really what my colleagues and the people in the community are saying that we need to listen to and begin to try to join with those efforts to try to help elevate a community that has been horrifically oppressed in our city. So as I said, I'm going to kind of, that's the start of my journey, and what I'm going to do is kind of go through this new PowerPoint that we've put together that hits the highlights of the book, of the report. We chose the title, I named it, was the State of Black Cincinnati 2015, and I added the subtitle, Two Cities. Because truly, when you see the data, and this is a very data-driven report, it really is almost an astonishing, in 2015, an astonishing divide between blacks and whites in this city. Let's see if I'm pressing the right button here. This is, again, part of the PowerPoint that Donna had me put together. So kind of ignore that. One of the things she wanted to do and wants me to do when I go out is just give a quick, many of you probably understand or have a good understanding of what the Urban League is. We've been active in Cincinnati in 66 years. The organization was officially founded in New York in 1910. And as I was talking earlier with one of the people here, it started in New York as a means to assist the number of African Americans who were migrating from the South and trying to find a better life and economic opportunity in the North. And as I said, the League was founded here in Cincinnati in 1949. A lot of what we do, and I went the wrong way, excuse me, is we have a youth services program, and most of that is focused on Woodward High School, which is one of the most at-risk populations in Cincinnati Public. We do a lot of after-school, very traditional mentoring, counseling. We also are involved with trying to promote college, first-time college students in many families, and providing them very basic tools such as how to fill out a FAFSA, how to make applications and meet those deadlines, because it can be very overwhelming. This is kind of what most people know about us, which is our workforce development. We do a lot of work with our SOAR program, and it's very successful. In fact, other similar organizations that do job readiness and life readiness refer some of their harder clients to us because we take anybody that walks in the door. I think our trainers have said that anywhere from 80 to 85% of our participants in any of our job readiness classes have major obstacles to employment, chief among them a criminal background. We do kind of the hidden part is the certification of Black and women-owned businesses, which is vital. We work in 3 states, which allows those businesses to meet criteria and allows them to participate in supplier diversity programs. So we certify those, and the increase just in the past couple of years of what those businesses, by getting them into that process, the volume of their business has increased a great deal. And of course, this is kind of one end of what we do, and there is a marriage between our job readiness programs and our kind of these working with business owners. There's a lot of hiring and cross-pollination that goes on. So the State of Black Cincinnati, as I mentioned, it's kind of modeled after the State of Black America that our national organization does. And it was last done in Cincinnati in 1995. And in fact, I wrote the story working with Sheila Adams, who was the president and CEO of the Urban League at the time. And I remember it's called a Framework for Action. And as I say up here, it sounded a somewhat optimistic tone, all the while looking at issues and disparities. But it said the social systems and laws were in place to address these concerns and bring about necessary change. Yet a lot of that stayed dormant, as you know, and as many of you know, until 2001, when Cincinnati was finally faced with looking at itself. That's Timothy Thomas, the young African-American who was shot, an unarmed Black man who was shot by a white police officer in Over the Rhine, which started the social unrest, and that started the process, through the amazing leadership of, I think, one of the unsung heroes of our city, Damon Lynch III.